Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome to the show. You are listening to The Midnight Run. It is a show where two of your hosts from, the Wannabe Critic podcast pay homage and really go in depth on some of their favorite cartoons / anime. I'm joined by my fellow host, one Rex Tucker. Rex, how you feeling today?
What's up, guys? I'm feeling good. A little sad, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. It is a little bit bittersweet, in my opinion, because
Somber.
not only we're ending our first, I guess you would call it our first season of the Midnight Run. Technically, I've been testing the waters with this show. But we ended our watch through of Samurai Jack. And for me, it was kind of interesting because we'll save it. I don't want to just jump right into it. How are you, Rex? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Just staying busy, man. Busy. Yeah, busy all the time, and trying to fit in games when I can. Yeah. Fit in animes and shows. So
yeah, I think honestly, like, before it gets like super deep and emotional, we should talk about like what we're actually going to be doing next. What do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, give them a little
taste.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, Rex. I'm glad that you've agreed to do the Midnight Run, and we will have more guests coming on. More co-hosts, I guess you could say, that will probably be popping in and out. Your sister Cammie is going to be joining the show for at least for My Hero Academia. I don't know. Oh, I just said it. I just said one of the things that we're going to be covering, which is My Hero Academia. That's going to be upcoming, folks, pretty soon. We're going to be covering a little anime that's kind of on the rise right now, called The Promised Neverland. So that's actually going to be, in the pipeline eventually. So that's kind of the two that we're working on next, My Hero Academia and The Promised Neverland. And we're going to have some more, friends come on to talk about it. And really, who knows what's going to happen with the Midnight Run, but you don't have to worry, because you can expect at least one episode per month of the Midnight Run featured here on the Wannabe Critic podcast. So there's that. But I'll tell you, do we want to just like jump right into this thing and just like go for it? Because I'm ready to talk about it. I've been holding it in for like the past 45 minutes, and like I'm just ready to talk about it. Are you ready to do this?
Yeah, I've been holding it in for a couple of days. I finished like 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm just like, all right.
Yeah, let's do this. So, for me, I'm just gonna like give a little story time. For me, Samurai Jack was the show that I would stay up late, whenever I went to my grandma's house, and I would be watching Toonami, and Samurai Jack would be there. And, it was like the coolest cartoon ever. And it was nice to like relive that as we've been like going through the show and like kind of trying to talk about like all these little things that, Jindy Tartakovsky was trying to express. And it was really strange when I started this up today. Actually, I watched it all in one day, or I guess I watched the first 2 episodes the other day, and then I finished the rest today. But it was super interesting finishing this show and just seeing really the finality of it, and just and feeling like, okay, this story is truly over, is what it felt like. But before we get in kind of the overview of the season, how did you feel about them literally taking all of those side quests that we've been kind of complaining about the entire time, taking everything and just kind of bringing it all back and like making it come full circle and making it matter in, at the end of the show, or really just in the middle of the show too? Like, how did that make you feel?
Dude, I had a lot of feelings at the end of this. Like, first I was like a little PO'd, like, dude, where was this all, the first 4 seasons? Where was this?
Yeah.
That was my initial reaction, was like, where was this? And then of course with the story, I was like, that sucks, but it's good,
Yeah.
And it does like bring it full circle and kind of complete everything, and it puts a little bow tie on it,
Oh, yeah, a little bow tie. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but initially I was just like, kind of PO'd like, why haven't you done this the whole time? Because it was, I don't know, in my opinion, it was so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know how early this show was supposed to end. It feels weird to end it 13 or 14 years later, or however long, 17, like, yeah, like 13 or 14 years later from its initial, airing date and things like that. Um, it does feel a little weird, but you think about it, 50 years has passed, things have changed. Samurai Jack, once he lost his sword, and we'll get into that arc in a little bit, but like once he lost his sword, he very much kind of went into like an Obi-Wan type phase where he's just a nomad, just like doing his thing and just trying to survive. It's like all hope is lost at this point. And I
Yeah, like
liked how,
worse than Obi-Wan because he was kind of going, a little crazy.
yeah, he was going insane. Well, like I like how they kind of represented death, and like this creeping feeling following Jack around the entire season. Like, come on, man, just end it all. Like, just kill yourself because you're
Oh,
not
that was
gonna.
yeah, it was so dude, it gave me I don't know, I kind of got like apocalypse vibes, you know? Did you get that?
Apocalypse, like from DC Universe.
No, no, like post-apocalyptic like
Oh yeah,
vibe.
yeah, 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 totally. Like I like literally in the beginning, I'm like, oh my god, Samurai Jack has become Mad Max. Like that's what I felt like.
Yeah, or like Walking Dead, like Rick Grimes or something, like
Yeah,
or
totally.
Daryl, with his motorcycle, just like
Yes. Yeah,
I don't know.
I totally got that. And I mean, that Shogun that was like on the horse, like with the green backdrop, and it was like following him around the entire time. It's like, dude, just like the
Right.
physical representation of that idea
Right.
until, like I just loved how they dance around with that. And like the you kind of grasp what that all means by the end of the show. And I thought it was super interesting how, he has a beard pretty much the entire show until the last couple episodes, but then um you know his like subconscious, his psyche is like the older, the younger Jack who is
Yeah.
like on the mission, the one that we've known, but they've kind of caricaturized him, as like this over the top idea of what Jack was trying to accomplish in the beginning, and he's like combating that along with how he's feeling now, which is giving up. It's like, okay, am I going to give up? This is how I really feel. And like all of, like you could say he's haunted, or his demons have followed him around, like in the beginning where his father's like, oh, you left us. And you could tell he just feels really guilty that he
Yeah,
wasn't able to get back to the time.
he's clearly like going insane. Like he's not aging and he doesn't know what to do. He's just existing with no purpose, And they really portrayed that well, I think.
Yeah, I really agree. So, the Jack's plot for the most part in this season is Jack is a nomad. He's just doing his thing. He's existing without a purpose, like Rex was saying, and he's just trying to, make it through life. And you could tell like he'll still help people. And like in the beginning, he helped somebody, but it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, now I'm going on with my day. Whatever. I don't think
Yeah.
he's. It's like he's doing it out of obligation.
Yeah, there was no like emotion behind it or like obviously he just, he probably did care for them, but he just it's like, just, that's what I always do.
Yeah, exactly. It's just become 50 years of doing the same thing over and over again. It's just kind of become commonplace at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
And I feel like this season went a little PG-13.
oh yeah, totally. I mean, we're seeing him, we're seeing blood for the first time ever in the show. Um,
Yeah.
and it's worth noting, they showed this on Toonami back in the day, but this fifth season was shown on Adult Swim. So I think
Right.
it very much was TV 14. I don't think it was TV MA. But yeah, I mean, there were like little things here and there, like whenever Scaramouche was like, oh, you dig it, babe. Like that guy was stinking hilarious. He's cracking me up the whole time. He was like, that guy was weird. It was like a talking penis. Like that
Yeah,
guy he
what was
talked.
up with
I
that?
don't know, but it made
That
me
totally
laugh.
caught me off guard. And then I was like, okay, this is like, yeah, this is a totally different,
Well, you
vibe
think
going.
about it, like we were young kids when the show first came out, and like it's kind of beautiful in a way that it's aged so well. and the show kind of grew up with the audience to where now we're adults, and watching this thing, and it's like the same, they're putting things in that make us laugh or make us, it's more relatable to our age group now than it was, than the older stuff was, because the older stuff is good, but it's aged and it's dated, you can tell.
Oh yeah, a hundred
um
percent.
but yeah, I mean, just overall, it was just a lot of it was nice to kind of add something a little bit different, and there's just so much
Well,
cool
it
stuff
made
to get into.
sense too. It made sense too because, he's like you said, he went so long without like hurting anyone, and he uh finally gets to this point where, he well it, he kind of accidentally like hurt someone. He didn't know that they were human. Um Not to jump ahead, but getting into the whole Seven Sisters, when
Yeah.
he fights them. That was kind of like the first time where he's like hurt someone, right?
Yeah, first time he's ever drawn blood on a human being, I believe.
Yeah, and he actually killed them.
Yeah.
Uh, but you could tell even with the robots, he was a bit more brutal after, the 50 years.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it was showing like the weapons like going inside of them and like twisting the
yeah,
wires,
that's exactly what I thought too. I was like,
like ripping him out. And so he's aged like you could see he's a little crazy. He got a little crazy and a little more malicious, I guess you would say. But it kind of fit with what they were going for.
yeah, I agree. And I think he's gotten to a point, he just doesn't care anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like he's just gotten to a point to where it's just, it kind of is what it is. Like it feels like every action is almost out of obligation in a lot of ways. But um can you tell me kind of like what you like, were you kind of irritated going into this fifth season a little bit? Like were you surprised to see kind of a change up?
It surprised me, but don't think I was irritated initially. Um, yeah, I kind of liked the changes. I thought they fit the theme that they were going for. Him being a nomad and going a little insane, and then having to finally choose. Do I hurt them or do I not? He kind of had to like reason with himself, and he realized that, oh, they've chosen this path.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've chosen this path for themselves. I don't want to hurt them.
Right.
But they're coming at me. So I think they did well in tying that together and how he kind of goes through that thought process. I think they did a decent job kind of explaining that. Um, the comedy kind of caught me off guard, but
The what caught you off guard?
the comedy with Scaramouche and everything.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, I'm Aku's favorite assassin. You dig it, babe." He's like, whenever he tried to get on the boat, he's like, "Well, I need to get on the boat, babe. So skedaddle." Like, dude,
It was
he
hilarious
cracked me up. Oh man.
and
So
really, really, he was kind of a cool enemy too.
yeah, he was, and it makes me like, I'm starting the download on the game right now because I actually want to go through the game again and experience it now that I've finished the show all the way through, because I never finished the show all the way through before I played the game. And it's a way different, it's a way different feeling playing the game. And
Do they
the
kind of
game,
like tie it together?
yeah, so like the game makes a lot more sense. It's kind of like a separate tear in time, like not a what it is a what if story, but it's like another thing that could have happened. So both endings are canon, and we'll get into that. We'll spoil. Well, I don't know if you want to be spoiled on it, but we'll get into that a
Yeah,
little bit
fine.
later. So let's kind of tackle the main idea of what's happening. He's just kind of living without a purpose. Then we find out that there's been these priestesses that have been kind of worshiping Aku for a long time. He basically put some of his essence in a cup, and one of them drank it and then gave birth to these seven assassins, and which were freaking awesome, by the way.
And
And
you don't really know if they were Akus in the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. You don't
Yeah,
know. You don't know that they're Aku's, but you find out later that they were.
right.
Um, and one of them, they start to hunt down Jack and they kind of destroy, they're kicking his butt and they follow him into this temple. And dude, whenever he's like hiding in the sarcophagus, and like that music's playing, like I got the chills, dude. I was like so stinking, I was just so into it. I was like, wow. And just like the way the animation hits different too. Like the animation is so much better now in this fifth season. And it's so
Yeah,
modernized and like it made everything flow really, really well. But you can tell Jack's already at his wits' end. But in that moment, whenever he's getting jumped by the seven sisters, whose sole intent is to destroy Samurai Jack, he starts to realize like what his purpose is. Like he starts to get a glimpse of what his purpose is. And that idea of kind of death following him around everywhere and like saying just like end it now. He's running away from that desire and running he keeps running away from that inclination to just end it. It's like, dude, I'm totally outclassed. I don't have my sword. That's another thing we didn't mention is he doesn't have a sword at this point. Um
yeah.
so it's
It
just like
almost
kind of
seems
the
like all hope is lost, you know?
yeah, totally. And then, he kind of composes himself, figures that he needs to press on, and then he takes on all seven sisters, pretty much at the same time. And yeah, he's like going toe to toe with them after they've chased him to this temple. And yeah, he accidentally kills one of them, in which he realizes, oh, this isn't nuts and bolts. This is a real person that he's killed. And, I liked how they kind of flashed back to his dad, as the emperor, and those, they're about to get jumped in that carriage and stuff like that. And the dad just kind of took care of business and basically told Jack, like, everyone, like kind of like what you were saying, everyone's actions have led them to whatever path they're on.
Right.
So, the decisions you make and the actions that follow those decisions show the type of person that you are. So I feel like, the creators are trying to tell us that Jack, even though the desire to want to just end it all is there, Jack knows his purpose is to press on and he has to keep going. Like his role is being like the lone samurai. His role is
Or the
figuring it
lone wolf.
out. What's that?
The lone wolf, right?
Yeah, exactly. His role is the lone wolf. Like you get wrecked, you lick your wounds, and then you get back to work. And that was kind of cool, to see the symbolism there too with the wolf in the cave, where the wolf was kind of helping. I thought it was kind of cute whenever he was cold and then he woke up and he was cuddling with the little wolf, and then
Oh,
after
so
after
sweet.
he healed, uh, he went on his merry way, and it was great.
Yeah, that whole I just couldn't stop like watching these episodes. Like they were so
Dude.
good.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could have watched the show week to week, like the fifth season, because I remember seeing the marketing for it on Twitter, and like people tweeting about it each day because there was a huge audience that followed it. And I remember not being able to watch them. I was dating Emma, like we were about to get married around this time that it was airing, and yeah, I mean, it was just kind of. I was sad that I had to binge it all in one day, basically. Like, and I kind of want to go through it again, to be honest with you. Like, it was that good. Like, there was multiple times during this fifth season where I was like, "Is this my favorite cartoon ever?" Like, there was multiple times where I thought that, just because it made me feel, there was nostalgia, there was emotion, there was there was the right amount of comedy. Like, there's just a lot there. So, it is really good stuff. But let's kind of get into what happens next. Not all the seven sisters, died. Just a couple of them did in that, and or maybe just one or two of them did in that temple. But they follow him after he's licked his wounds. They're tracking him, doing the thing. And
And that's
whenever,
where he kind of like comes to terms with hurting them, right?
yeah, I mean, that's kind of where he has it kind of comes full circle where he's like, okay, it's kill or be killed, basically.
Right.
And he
Yeah.
knows he needs to press on. What did you think of that action sequence between him and the seven sisters in the snow?
That was that's up there with one of my favorite scenes probably from the whole show. I thought it was really good, and you could really tell how much better the creator got at animating, or whatever they did with that. It was really good. I really liked that scene when it was just all white,
Yeah. And they're like,
and then
"Show
it finally
yourself,
cleared.
samurai." like,
Yeah.
so it was kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy just to see how much modern technology has changed and like how much better they can get the point across, or across, excuse me. But I was really impressed with the scene, and it was like, God, like Jack is just a beast. If there was anyone that I knew that could be in peak physical condition and in their prime, and like be fighting just all the time for 50 years, like I feel like that's what it would look like. They did a really good job of like representing that. Um, but basically, long story short, I mean, he just takes all of those sisters out, like just wrecks them. Just, I mean, it was a decent fight, but then one is left, and at the end of it, we kind of come to know that her name is Ashi, and Ashi hates the samurai, but his samurai Bushido honor, he cannot let Ashi die. He doesn't want her to die. So basically, after this big fight happens, there's like a leviathan that swallows up the land, pretty much the entire piece of land that they were on, swallows them both, and Jack, subdues her but keeps her alive. So then, as they work their way through this leviathan, pretty much coming to know each other, and she still hates him, but he's basically telling her that, Aku has lied to her pretty much her entire life. And she's like, no, this can't be true, yada, yada, yada. And by the time they actually get out of the beast, the belly of the beast, so to speak, she has a flashback. We kind of come to know and learn like her training and like what her life was like. And just like even whenever she was a little kid being trained to kill the samurai, the ladybug, her being curious. And even
Yeah.
her mom, in flashbacks, her mom was like, you were always the strongest, but you were the weakest because you were the most curious, whatever. Um, and then it starts to click, like this peaceful creature that she's interested in is just kind of drawn to Jack, and we kind of get that idea of interest for at the end of that episode. She's like, well, maybe Jack's not all that bad. You know what I mean? And then it kind of goes from there. What did you think of that whole like Leviathan scene? That whole, that was like an entire episode of us being inside that thing.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty trippy. Pretty cool though. Um, I liked the idea of, him trying to unbrainwash Ashi, and really her whole character arc was so good in this season.
I
Like,
have a crush on her so bad.
yeah, it like made the whole season, and that's just the start of it. And it was funny because she was so vicious, and she was an assassin, and so she was doing anything she possibly could to hurt Samurai, even if she would die too. So even though he had her chained up and on his back, she would like find ways of like nudging him off a ledge or doing something. And yeah, I just thought that scene was pretty cool. Them being in the monster, and that the visuals were
Yeah,
really interesting. All
really
the
pretty
different,
colors.
yeah, all the different like symbiotic creatures that were inside there.
Yeah,
That was pretty cool. And
and
then time and
like,
time again, Samurai keeps saving, or Jack keeps saving her life. So
yeah, and I liked how like whenever they would go through different parts of the Leviathan, like he basically had different biomes inside of him
yeah,
that he, like what there was like a desert at one point, and like it was raining needles, and that part was hilarious. Whenever it's raining needles, and he's like, they both just get impaled with needles, and she's just sitting there, like with a scowl on her face, and he's like, well, I guess we better get to it. And he just like shows them like, pulling a pin out of each of them. And she just is mad the whole time. You could tell he's like trying to like not make it awkward. He's like, you know, he's like, some people pay for this. It's called acupuncture, and like just his charm, we really get to see like his personality kind of come out. Like that felt like the Samurai Jack in the first 4 seasons, him just trying to be kind, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
do that whole
yeah.
thing.
That's a good point. You do see a a bigger part of Jack this season.
Yeah, I agree. It just, man, a lot
This
happens
guy's
with him.
really creative too.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean,
I
and I
like,
think I wonder how much he wanted to do that Cartoon Network and originally said no to. So like it would make sense that whenever he got picked up by Adult Swim, that he would, kind of just be able to do whatever he wanted. And it wasn't like it was crazy bad or anything like, or even super graphic. It was just more PG-13, like what you were saying, a little
yeah,
bit of innuendo and stuff like that. But um, whenever they get out of the Leviathan, she comes to realize like, oh, maybe Jack's not all that bad. Uh, he like commandeers like a serpent, like a sea serpent, and then they get to the mainland, and then they kind of go their separate ways, basically. And I found it super interesting that, you know, the next episode, she's basically getting hearing the stories of what Jack has done for other people, and like he could have gone back to the past so many times, but he decided to stay and help people. And I don't know, like you could kind of tell like she's kind of starting to get the hots for him a little bit. Like you can totally tell, you can sense it through the screen. And it was just kind of cool, like to see the samurai, like he's old now, and the jump, not the jump good people, but the animals that he
Yeah.
saved, from the other guys, and just seeing all, and like the archers on the archer tower, and like we're just already, we start kind of going back down memory lane a little bit, and it's like, oh man, this was like, I remember that, I remember watching it this other time, but I remember it 15 years ago. You know what I mean? I remember watching those episodes, and like it just, the nostalgia started there for me. Um, what was kind of, what were you feeling, whenever like that, like those older episodes started kind of coming back up as part of the history, and like they were acknowledging that, because we would go back, each week and be like, okay, yeah, is this ever going to come back around? Like, are we ever going to see these guys again?
Yeah, I mean, he tied that in so well. It just felt natural, and it felt, um, I don't know, this so the way he did it was so good, and it just tied everything together, and it gave fans, I can't imagine like watching it. We just watched them all, so it's a little different feeling, I think, for when fans were watching it, 10 years later or 15 years later. Um, that was probably really cool for fans to experience. And I don't remember a lot from watching it as a child, so I still thought it was cool though. I thought it was really cool to see all those characters and have them all incorporated, and I thought that was really unique and well done.
Yeah, I did too. And I think Ashi's kind of doing her thing, Jack's kind of doing his thing, and we're getting more background information. We see the Scotsman and all of his daughters try and lead an assault on Aku's temple. Did your heart drop a little bit whenever Aku like lasered him? He like
Yeah,
shut up and he's
really.
like, dude, I was shook for a minute. I was watching it. I was like, oh, whenever he's like, go cry to your mommy, and like Aku just lasered him. I was like, oh no, dude. I was so sad. And like whenever his daughters like kind of teared up, I was like, oh God, like that was so sad. And then of course, Celtic magic,
Yeah,
like I wasn't expecting that. It just, I don't know. I feel like they did the best job ever of like representing the characters really well. And
very SpongeBob-esque.
yeah, like callbacks, just very callbacks, and whenever he's basically force ghosted at that point and helping, but they did a good job. It was just a quick little segment to kind of set up how it was going to help stuff in the future.
And
Um,
his daughters were thick, man.
they were thick. They were thick. I might have had a couple crushes on them too as well. They could all be football players probably,
Yeah,
or gladiators. Um, so kind of moving it along, basically, eventually, Ashi and Samurai Jack are reunited, and she's kind of been telling, she's at this point realized exactly what has happened, and with Samurai Jack the past 50 plus years, and uh, they're trying, they're caught in a city of some sort, and there's all these like little kid creatures, like little tiny creatures that I don't really know what they were, but basically they're being forced against their own will. Ashi gets kidnapped and Samurai Jack goes to save her, but then going to save her, like it ends up looking like Jack has killed all the kids. So can all of the kids dead around him, combined with the thought of failure and not being able to get back to his time, that representation or that imagery of death following him wherever, almost like a shogun, like Grim Reaper of sorts, saying like, okay, it's time, like it's time for you to take your own life, basically. And he kind of has
yeah,
that inner struggle, that inner struggle of, okay, am I going to kill myself or what? And then Ashi basically coming to his aid and following him, being like, no, people have benefited, like you saved more than has been lost. yada yada yada, all that jazz.
Yeah,
Um,
that was great timing. Because he finally goes off with that uh dark looking figure, and he's about to commit seppuku or whatever it's called,
right.
kill himself, and she comes
Seppuku.
in. I think it's called that. Uh, and then she comes in, at the last moment and convinces him otherwise. I thought that was cool. Good timing.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
yeah,
I'm
it just all
listening.
made sense the way that it all like puzzle pieced together.
Yeah, I mean, it just you can tell there's like a buildup happening. Like we're getting a buildup of some sort, and like after it's all said and done, they kind of joined forces in a sense, and then they're kind of trying to make their way through this thing, and
When was Not to cut you off, but when was the scene where they're in that like obelisk or ship that fell in the sand?
yeah. That's kind of what I was getting to. So
Okay.
I think at one point, Jack has to like go to this really high mountain after they've joined forces and they're going to be friends. Jack has to basically go to this like high mountain, and he's like basically goes to like an astral plane of sorts to try and figure out what's been holding him back. So Ashi has to basically hold off this entire. It was like Helm's Deep, basically from Lord of the Rings. She like basically is holding off this army, and then her mom actually shows up and is telling her like, "Oh, you're worthless. Like you couldn't kill the samurai. Yada yada yada. Like you're joining forces with them. I can't believe you." She kills her mom, and then Jack comes to realize that his older self or his younger self's just determination and hatred is actually the thing that's been holding Jack back this entire time, and the guilt, like he's been guilt tripping himself, and he's just been unbalanced.
Yeah.
So after that, whenever he comes to realization that he's whole again, then Thor, or not Thor, Odin, Ra, and another like god of some sort, like they're
One
like,
that made the sword, right?
yeah, all three of them. So all three of them are like all three of them forged the sword. So like they basically Thor it up a little bit and give him the sword back because it was whenever they go to try and find the sword. He's like, that's what I need to do. I need to find the sword. So he realized that the sword was hiding itself from Jack, like because he wasn't worthy of it, and that was a really cool way to tell the story. So eventually he earns it back. Then we see them kind of like liking each other in the next episode. They're kind of like going to town and eating, and they get on the train and they get like really close at one point because people are packing into this train, and
Yeah.
Ashi's like, something's poking me, but it's Jack's sword. But they were trying to, what they were trying to say.
It's like total rom-com episode.
Yeah, it was just kind of funny. Uh, but it was nice because they're like fighting together. You can tell they're naturally growing together. Like they spent an entire episode like building that relationship. They're basically on a date the entire time, and like they're touching. Like every once in a while they'll touch each other, and it's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And it's pretty cute. At the end of the episode though, that's whenever they get into like the obelisk like monolithic thing, and basically there's like an alien race inside that was imprisoned, and they go through this whole,
Slugs.
yeah, the slugs. So after that, after they like basically eliminate it, it looks like it's they're done. It looks like they're done for. But luckily Jack finds a device that he allows him to basically kill all the slugs, saving him and Ashi. So like basically on the brink of death, coming back from that, they're like breathing really heavily and like they're like glancing at each other, and then they just start making out. Like straight up. And I don't remember what the song was, but it was like, like a Frank Sinatra song or something that they were playing. And I don't know. In that
Oh
moment, like
yeah,
that,
it was.
yeah,
It
like,
was,
and
dude, that scene was really good. It's
it
just
was
like
so good.
the classic music hits, and it's like it just felt so awesome.
It was just really unique. Like it just felt right. It was like, oh man, like finally, Jack, you've kissed a lady. Congratulations.
Is that when we realized that she was like actually just naked the whole time and had like blackness on her skin?
Yeah. Yeah, because she bathed. Like, yeah, that was the whole thing, is like she had like char or something like that,
Yeah,
that
it was
had
like
that had kept her
charcoal or
skin
something.
black. But she washed it off, and that was the one too where, yeah, she's basically been naked the whole time, and he tries to cover her up with his robe. He's like, like don't take the robe off. You know what I mean? Like just it's pretty funny. But I mean, you could tell like they're feeling it for each other, and we as viewers and we as fans are like, I don't know about you. How did you feel? I was like, this is awesome. Like this could not be any better, in my opinion. In this
Yeah.
moment, it feels right.
Yeah, you kind of want it for Samurai Jack because, you feel like he deserves it, I guess. And you don't see that in the past episodes. I think there was only one where he like gets close to a girl and it ends up being a coup. Um,
Yeah,
and that's like the only time you ever see another girl. So uh, it was, I guess, I don't know, it just felt right. Like he was finally connecting with someone. Um, and I liked it. I thought their relationship was developed really well, and it made sense, I think.
yeah, I agree. I think
But later on, it hits us pretty hard. So
yeah, and that might be a good kind of segue to like kind of wrap up what happened this season. Basically, Aku captures Scaramouche. He got his head chopped off in the first episode. I mean, I dig it, babe. And he's like trying to like he's hopping. He's like, I guess I got to bunny hop my way to Aku. All right, like doing his whole thing, and Aku learns that
yeah, he
Jack is with.
literally like popped.
Yeah, literally. And Aku finds out that he doesn't have his sword, which by this point Jack does have his sword. So he goes to find Samurai Jack and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute. I know you. Like that's whenever we learn, that Ashi is his daughter." So then he captures Ashi, or I'm sorry, he captures Jack and has basically, amplified the darkness within Ashi to where now she has no control over her body. She's basically like a daughter of Aku, basically. And that's whenever
I
we get
like
the
how he like immediately kills Scaramouche too.
oh yeah, like literally as soon as he sees the sword, he's like, oh no, like as soon as he realizes that Jack has the sword. But whenever Jack, you can tell he loves this girl, and whenever he sees that she's kind of gone now, in a way, he just kind of gives up. So then, in the finale, in the final episode, the last episode of Samurai Jack, we see all of the people that Jack has helped, throughout the past 15 years at this point, and for us in the past 50 years for him. And the flames are coming up on people's TVs, everywhere, wherever people can see media. And the intro to the show, the old intro to the show from the first four seasons, starts playing. Long ago in a distant land, or past. That whole thing's playing, and like in that moment, it was just so like it kind of hit me. I was like, wow, yeah, this is really the end. And it just was a really, I don't know, it was a really cool moment because each of these people and each of these adventures, we kind of inherently already are thinking about the adventures that Jack has had the past however long, and remembering those episodes and remembering those things that we've gone through kind of with Jack. And you can tell that you can see the determination on everybody's face is like, oh, we got to help Jack. Like they didn't even really know exactly what had happened. Like all they knew that was Jack had to get back to his time. But the fact that Aku was showing him or showing all of them exactly what had happened, and that now all hope looked lost, there was a call to action. It's like, okay, Jack helped us once. We need to help him now. Like, this is our time to come together. And it very much felt like this epic, like, I mean, it kind of felt like the Rise of Skywalker a little bit, where just like all of these people gather together and it's like one final assault on the big baddie. And
Yeah,
it made me sad whenever Aku's like he's like laying waste to a lot of them. You know what I mean? And it was like, man, Aku just killed a bunch of my friends, like that I've, grown up with, is kind of what it felt like.
yeah.
Um, what did you think of that final assault, like that whole intro scene on the final episode?
Um, I don't know. I haven't thought about it too much, other than like you said, it did feel like Rise of Skywalker when they're all grouping up, and you kind of feel a camaraderie, and like you feel like what Samurai Jack has done in the past is all like paying off in a way. So you do get a bit of payoff there, and they kind of they don't really stand a chance against Aku though, but they're making their stand, and it's kind of more like a distraction than anything, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought it was interesting, and uh, yeah, I don't know. I didn't think about that part too much, other than that.
It really felt like that was the big body of the episode, you know what I mean? But the entire time, he's trying to talk to Ashi and trying to tell her, like, hey, fight against this
Right.
darkness inside you and do this thing. And they really, Jack has his thing going on. We have this final assault. And yeah, you're right. They don't stand a chance. But in the end, basically Ashi realizes whenever she does break free that the key, it's like true love's first kiss to break the spell, so to speak. It's Jack saying, I love you.
Right.
And in that moment, I just thought, what is the opposite of hate and evil? And that's love. And that's exactly like Jack literally says, he's like, Aku is evil personified. What is the exact opposite of evil? What can combat evil? And that's exactly what he
Yeah.
tells Ashi. He's like, I love you. He's fallen in love with
Yeah.
Ashi at this point. And she kind of like goes Super Saiyan a little bit in a way when you think about it, because she has like, whenever she comes out of the spell, she realizes, oh my God, I have all these like dope powers. Like I can do Aku stuff.
Were were you like waiting for Jack to say I love you there too?
I wasn't expecting it. No, I mean, I did not expect him to
Oh,
say
okay.
that.
I was. I was like, dude, I know this story. He's gonna say it, and then she's gonna fight it for sure. But I was like rooting for him to say it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for a split second, I was like, "What's he gonna do?" And then whenever he blinked and like realized like, "Oh, like I love you," then it was like a millisecond. Man, I don't breathe beer, ladies and gentlemen. Um, yeah, but whenever she realizes she has those powers, and the one thing I didn't like was how there's all this fighting and all this chaos, and you could tell like Aku's kind of laid waste to everybody, but the fighting just kind of stops. Like everything just kind of is put on
Yeah.
standstill, and then all of a sudden we're back in time. You know what I
It's
mean?
very abrupt, yeah.
It felt, they could have, we could have seen the hunt, the Scotsman a little bit more.
I think maybe, yeah, I think Q was trying to tie it up all in that episode, I think.
Yeah, I
And
mean, you only have so much time, but
yeah.
it would have been cool to have like a movie, like a last like hour, or
I,
at least like
I
an
mean,
hour
that
long
last
episode.
season could have been a movie.
It really
Maybe.
could have. I mean,
It
if
felt like
you,
one cohesive story.
yeah, I mean, and when you think about it, there's 10 episodes at like 20 minutes apiece. So 20, 40, 60, 80, or I'm sorry, 20, 40, 1 hour, 20, 40, 2 hours, 20, 40, 3 hours. So it'd be like, it'd be a little over 3 hours basically. So,
Yeah, it's pretty long, I guess.
I mean, that's long. I mean, it's been done. It has been done,
And I don't think it would have probably done well as a movie. Uh,
yeah, probably
I don't
not.
think it had the fan base probably.
Yeah. I mean, the show is the best way to do it, honestly.
Yeah.
But basically, after we get sent back in time, Aku, right after he sends, Jack back to the past, we go to the first episode where he sends him to the past. And then literally right after that, Samurai Jack pops back in and just goes ham. Like he's like, doing his thing. Shout out to
Yep.
Phil Lamar for his dope voice acting. Um, and we know what happens. He just lays waste to Aku. The everything's great. Him and Ashi escape. And next thing we know, him and Ashi are preparing for their wedding day. It's great. It's beautiful. The emperor's there. The emperor and the king and the queen are there. Jack's mom and dad, they're doing the thing. Ashi looks beautiful. Like I have a crush on Ashi. I have a crush on a cartoon. I can't help it.
Did you? Yeah, no, I mean, how can you not? She's
Yeah,
like perfect.
she's awesome.
But don't you feel a little bit like end of Star Wars around that time?
Yeah, totally. It totally felt like, oh, triumphant, like this is
Yeah.
great. And, Jack looks so happy. He's finally happy. He doesn't have to be the lone wolf anymore, right? Everything ends great, right, Rex?
Yeah, just, every life goes on and they're perfectly happy and they just live a happy life, happy ever after.
So if you play a little game called Samurai Jack Battle Through Time, that's exactly what happens. They defeat Aku, they escape together, and you know, They do the thing. It's great. And they live happily ever after. But unfortunately, at the end of this show, they pull a Back to the Future. And Ashi, as she's walking down the aisle to get married, collapses. And Jack holds her in his arms and says, it's like, what's going on? She goes, Jack, without Aku, I would have never existed. And then she basically disappears. So stupid. Like, I understand. I would have been way happier if you just would have killed her. Like, kill her instead. Don't do that because that's stupid. That's not how time travel works. Like, that's not what would have happened. Like, you don't you get what I'm saying, Rex? Like, she
I mean,
wouldn't
how do you know? How do you know what would
she
happen?
exists right there. You can't if she's existing right there, she can't be disappearing because of something that happened in the past. She's because it's not one stream of time. It is literally branches of time. So you have all
Right.
these what if stories. So really, whenever Jack would have, if that was the case, using that logic, if Jack was to go back and try and fight Aku, Ashi shouldn't have been there at all, realistically. So I understand why they did that, but the Back to the Future thing just frustrates me
Yeah,
because
I mean, I get it. I didn't want it to happen either. Okay, Gabe? I didn't want it to happen. But,
screw
you
you,
know,
Jindy.
yeah, he did us dirty.
He raw, he raw. I can't say it. Um,
He
how do
he hit you right in the feels, I guess.
he did? And like, I guess it is kind of interesting, and I understand why they did that. But I would say just kill her, like in a final blow, have Aku kill her and have Jack mourn instead of doing that. Um, in the last moments of the show, we see Jack. He's just by himself, as usual, and doing the thing. And his hair's long. You can tell he's sad, and it very much feels like a similar picture as to what we've seen before. He's wandering the wilderness alone with some purpose in mind. So he takes a seat by a tree, and he sees that ladybug that we were talking about earlier, which in turn would remind him of who? It would remind him of Ashi. So, and then right after he's reminded of Ashi, like the sun shines through the tree and like there's a little bit of beauty. It's a gray, like rainy day, and we see just a little bit of beauty in that gray day. I feel like the entire time, like the creators have tried to tell us, like, this is Jack's path. Like, he is the lone wolf. Like, he is driven by a memory. That's literally what it is. Like, he is driven by one idea that at this point that is just memories. And that's what he even says that in the show. He's like, I cherish those memories, and that's kind of like what I live for, is those memories, basically. That's why I'm so driven, is because of those memories. So I don't know, like, I feel like we have this character that we love going through, kind of being dealt a crappy hand at the end of the show. And it's just, to me, it kind of speaks like, don't take those little moments for granted, and don't take the people in your life for granted, because unexplainably, it's unexplainable how sometime they can just be gone. Um, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to make sense. It's almost like it doesn't have to make sense. They're gone. It is what it is. So I don't know. Like, what do you think? What did the ending mean to you?
Yeah, dude. I didn't necessarily love the ending, but I kind of understood it, like she was made out of part pure evil, but it seemed like she did change, and she was able to make that change. So why do you kind of have to kill her off if you're gonna like show her making that change and um, going through that transformation and being able to kind of become a good person and fall in love with a good person. So it didn't make the most sense. I feel like it was more, I don't know, I feel like maybe he did it just because he felt like that's what would happen uh, you know, if she never was able to exist. But I kind of agree with you. Like, that doesn't make so much sense because it's hard to speculate on time travel, you know, it's time travel. Like what you can't really make up rules for time travel, but it feels that way, right? Like if you're gonna have all these different branches of time coexisting, like why can't she just exist in one branch of time? Um, so I feel like I don't really know why he did that or why he made her character die, unless it was just like I your reason made more sense, but I couldn't really put a reason to it. I
I
couldn't come
mean,
up with.
yeah, I mean, to me, it's like I could understand them wanting to be consistent with Jack's story because Jack's story is a tragedy. Like the entire time, he gets so close to happiness and then every time it's taken from him. So, you know, I guess it's I guess it's him trying. I guess it's the creators trying to say like, no matter what, there's always going to be something. Like you can't have a perfect situation. This isn't a fairy tale. Like it's not a fairy tale ending. Like bad things can still happen even in a good situation. And
Or
you know, once he gets back to his time, it's like, okay, you got back to your time, but now you can't have the girl now. Like you can't this thing that you've fallen in love with from a different life. You can't bring that into your next life. Like
when was this season made? What year?
2017.
I wonder if he was just like watching a lot of Game of Thrones and was just like, "Ah, I'm just gonna do that."
Yeah, with and not make it and have it not make any sense. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah, like it almost felt like like he was just doing it because a lot of people were doing it around that time.
yeah, and I mean, I understand too wanting to make an impact and like not wanting to make it like every other story, but I feel like there were so many other things in this season to where it sticks out from every other story. Like it's not like every other story. It serves a specific purpose and it does its job pretty well. It's the best season of Samurai Jack, period. Like you could watch a recap of Samurai Jack and then watch season 5 and literally have the best parts of Samurai Jack, in my opinion.
I think
Um,
that was the biggest negative for me though.
what? The fact that the rest of the show isn't that good and the 5th season's awesome.
No, 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 just this season, her dying.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was the biggest bummer. And whether you can put an understanding on it or not, it seemed like it was going one way and then just at the last minute taken. So
Yeah, that was probably the biggest negative for me. And just because I don't know, I couldn't really make it make sense in my mind or I couldn't get his message. His message didn't come through of her death for me.
yeah, I mean, yeah. I think it's at the same time. I think it's an ending we'll be thinking about for a long time, though. So
Yeah.
either way, well, I think you need to play the game now. That way, you can see kind of the
Yeah.
alternate branch, of
I'm
reality,
glad I'm glad they added that, I guess.
and it's canon.
So
Like they did
yeah,
say like this is a canon ending. Like this is another ending. So, um, you know, there's that. But
yeah.
so that's
Why
basically.
not why not why not have it reversed and have that in the show and then throw that in the game where she dies?
Well, the cool thing is what the cool thing is that they redid the animation and stuff too. So like, there's new animations inside the show or inside the game that would kind of correspond to the show. So there's that too. But
That's cool.
yeah, it was frustrating because at the end of the show, I was looking for more. Like I was sad that we weren't getting any more Samurai Jack. But at the same time, I feel like they wrapped it up pretty nicely, even though there were aspects of the ending that weren't that hurt. Basically, it just felt like I don't know. It just felt
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's hard to make sense of. It's hard to make
Yeah,
sense.
whenever a show does this to me, I get really mad. So,
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like I just spent so much time watching this thing, and now the thing that literally made the show more interesting than it's ever been, you've taken that away.
yeah.
I don't know, but it's probably making it sound like we didn't like it. I did love this 5th season, and I definitely think you should watch it because it will give you the feels. But yeah, that was Samurai Jack. That was the season finale of Samurai Jack, or the
We
series
did it.
finale rather. We did it. We made through our first season of the Midnight Run, And Rex, I'm so happy that you have agreed to do it. It's been a lot of fun. So I look forward to our next projects. But what do you say before we sign off? We score this bad boy.
Okay, should we score the season and then the show overall?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So why don't you give your scores first, and then I'll go.
Okay, my score for this season is going to be a 9. And it's pretty much all in what we talked about. It's an amazing, epic season full of highs and an extreme low at the end. But uh, that low does not ruin the season. Um, if anything, it just raises questions. But that was the only negative for me, was we didn't have that happy ending, or her death didn't really make sense to me or convey a message that I was capable of understanding, at least. So that's why I'm going to give it a 9 for the season. I really loved it. Definitely the best season overall. And it made sense. The story was cohesive throughout the whole thing. It was totally different than the past seasons. And the creator, I'm not going to butcher his name, but he really tied a bow on his creation, on his story, and tied it all together. And I felt like he was able to do what he wanted to do, which was cool. And we saw how good, uh, how much progress he's made in his skill and his artwork. We really see that come across in this season. So yeah, it's really good. Show overall. Well, why don't you go first, and then we'll do show overall.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna give the final season a 9. I really wanted to give it like a 9.5, but just the way Ashi is handled, and granted, it's not like she's been in the show the entire time, but the way that the character is handled just in that amount of time, just to give us hope, like give us a glint of hope, and kind of make us put us in, make us put ourselves in Jack's shoes. I really liked how they made us do that. And because we felt like we feel what he's feeling, basically, because we've been with him for literally 15 years or however long it's been. So it's almost like he's a friend at this point. So to see him happy makes us happy. And then to take that away from us so quickly, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially the way it's executed. Execution is, I understand, but like I said, do not pull the Back to the Future thing. That's stupid. It's dumb. I'm sorry. It will always be dumb. Kill her. Just kill her in front of us. Literally do that instead.
Yeah.
That would have made me not happy because I don't want to see her die at all in the show. But you get what I'm saying. So I agree with you. 9 out of 10 for the season.
Yeah, definitely.
Which
And
says high, like the animation. Like the animation is great. The character, like the symbolism with stuff is great. Just everything about it is awesome. So what
yeah, and
about the
I
show?
think you gave the first season like a really high score too, right?
Yeah, I think I gave it a 9.
Yeah. But you agree that this one's better, right?
Yeah, I would say it's like for the time for the time season 1 was released. Yeah, that was a 9. If you put season 1 against season 5, I would say season 1 probably drops down to like an 8 or
Yeah,
8.5, whereas this is like definitely a 9.
I would agree. Show overall, I'm gonna have to give it. It feels like a solid 8 to me. Yeah, I'm just feeling like the only thing, like I said, that kind of made me upset was like, man, why couldn't this sort of storytelling be in the whole show, first season through the fourth season? Like, where was that? I get that maybe Cartoon Network didn't let him kind of do whatever he wanted. So that kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, those seasons maybe brought it down a bit with the amount of filler, and it was just totally different from season 5. It's completely different, the way the story's being told and everything. But that fifth season really brings it up a lot for me. And of course, you get a nostalgia factor with this show. Um, that's really good. And we obviously have those really good episodes throughout the seasons that kind of make the show enjoyable. So yeah, I feel it's pretty solid. And overall, I'd probably give it an 8, border 7.58, somewhere around there.
That's good. I agree with everything you just said. I think, there's a lot of really good things throughout the show that are awesome, like super unique and creative. And then, there's a lot of stuff that's just really just filler, and you're going to have filler with the show like this. Like, really, this was like the first Mandalorian before Mandalorian was a thing. Like, this was cartoon Mandalorian in a lot of ways. And, like, just in terms of like basically every week is a side quest. Every week is this guy doing this thing to further him to a greater goal, but to do this greater goal, like he has to do all this like micro stuff.
Right,
So, but at the same time, I feel like in the, because the first 4 seasons each have 13 episodes each, right? And then the last season has 10 episodes. So in those 50 plus episodes or whatever it is, 60 plus episodes, I guess. How many is that? I can't do math. What's 13 times 3 or 4? What's 13 times 4? I'm calculating it right now. I'm doing it. So
for it.
13
That's like
times 4 is
52.
52. And then we have 10 episodes in the end. That's 62. So out of 62 episodes, there's 10 of them that are awesome in the 5th season. And then outside of that, there's probably like 20 or 21, 20 to 23 episodes that are awesome. And the rest is just kind of there.
Right.
So, but I feel like those really awesome episodes bring you to the next one, bring you to whatever episode is next, to where maybe you have a crappy episode, but then you just, I can count on one hand like some of the best ones, like the Seven Samurai robot episode, the twin serpent episode, the whenever they did like the 3 stories in one with like the metal eaters and stuff like that, the tower episode, the stuff with Jump Good, like there's all these legendary scenes and like all these legendary ideas that are there that makes Jack's story more endearing, I would say. So, and that's really what this is. I mean, we're supposed to be along for the ride on this very lonely journey with this lonely guy. Like we're just kind of on looking his experience there, but it doesn't always land, and it is when it's awesome, it's awesome. Whenever it's slow, it's just okay. So I'm going to go 8.5. I don't feel like the show as a whole is quite a 9, because we're bordering like nearly perfect, a 9 and a 10. Like there's like nearly perfect and like 9 out of 10 is like nitpicky things, I would say, and 10 out of 10 is nearly perfect in my opinion. So, and really like there's like a really thin threshold between a 9 and a 10. So for me, like saying an 8.5 as a whole for the entire show feels right to say.
Yeah. I
So
want to say there's an asterisk too, with our scores, because I don't think this show is for everyone. And I don't think it really caters towards everyone. I think me and you, we're young, young boys or young men when we watched it, and we probably loved samurais at the time and loved action.
yeah,
So there's a little asterisk. I can't even say that word right now.
asterisk,
Asterisk.
asterisk.
Yeah. What I mean is, it's just not. It's not going to be for everyone. So
Yeah. Well, and I think
there's also that.
yeah, I agree. And like even in terms of the animation style, like it's very crude is the wrong word, but it's very stylistic, but it only caters to a specific audience, I would say. Not everyone. I think this sounds probably pretentious, but not everyone is going to get it, I don't think. And
Exactly.
us forcing ourselves to kind of watch through the entire thing, we're looking at it through a different lens than just your casual viewer. We're trying to look for what the symbolism means for whatever it
Yeah.
might be. And I still think you
For
could probably
for instance,
you could watch season 1 and season 5 and be good, in my opinion.
yeah. And for instance, I probably wouldn't like recommend this to someone if they had no idea about it or never saw it when they were younger. I'm not so sure I would like recommend it unless they were really like into, uh, you know, uh, samurais or
Yeah.
ronins or, watched
Well, and I
Toonami when
mean,
they were younger.
That's the thing too, is if you're into sci-fi, like if you love sci-fi, I feel like there's
Yeah,
I agree with that and I don't agree with that. If someone came to me and be like, "Oh man, it just feels like, manga is not really, I'm sorry, like anime is just not that good nowadays. Like I want something different. Like I'm looking for something different." I would recommend this show. If something's looking for
yeah,
something different. But if they're just kind of like your average whatever, then I don't know. I think there's definitely there's a niche audience for this show, and I think it caters to that audience very well. But yeah, I would say 5 out of 10 people aren't going to get it, and probably won't finish it.
yeah. I agree with you, and I just wanted to make that point because, you know, it's not for everyone. Anime is not for everyone. Cartoons are not for everyone. But uh, I think if you are into cartoons in general, you grew up around that era, or you're into samurais or sci-fi, and you do want something different, like you said, give it a shot because it's definitely a good story.
Yeah, it definitely is. It serves a purpose. And even if you're not into anime or cartoons or whatever, why are you listening to the show? I don't understand. It's been fun, Rex, to go through all of this, to watch all this. And I can't thank you enough for giving your time to watch it. It's been a lot of fun. I'm excited to see where I'm excited to see where the midnight run goes, with 2021 coming. This is the last episode for this year, and it's kind of cool. I didn't time this on purpose, but it feels right. Season 5 of Samurai Jack ending a series at the end of the year feels right. I'm happy. It's just been a lot of fun. So, you know, we're gonna pour one out for Samurai Jack. Stay tuned, ladies and
For
gentlemen,
sure.
because me and Rex might play through the game and review it that way and kind of give our thoughts on that. We haven't talked about it, but it might happen. So stay tuned. But Rex, I think it's time to wrap this up, man. What do you say?
Yeah, man, I think I've said all that I can say about Samurai Jack.
Yeah, I think I have too. It is bittersweet, but thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a lot of fun to go through Samurai Jack. Stay tuned for our next series. It's going to start up in 2021, and we're going to have a great time. My Hero Academia and the Promised Neverland. Not sure which one we're going to do first. Probably Promised Neverland, since there's only one season of that. But I have a good feeling about 2021 for the Midnight Run. So,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
oh, you've become, I'm happy. I'm happy you've become part of the main Wannabe Critic podcast, and I'm happy you and I have a side project we can work on. It's a lot of fun to have. It's a lot of fun to have stuff in house. So,
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic. This has been the Midnight Run. Rex, say goodbye.
goodbye, y'all.
Whatever possessed you to check out the podcast or the YouTube channel today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it, if you would consider subscribing. As you can tell, it's not just me here anymore. I mean, I do stuff by myself, but the podcast is going to reside here from now on, in video form. So if you want to see more content, if you want to be notified, every time we post something, whether it be a clip, a podcast, a review, an interview, whatever it may be, if it's gaming stuff, make sure you click that bell and hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic.